A very good morning, esteemed guests, respected academics, and our learning partners, and all others who have joined us physically and via Zoom today. A very warm welcome to the 5th Annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy, EFMP 2025, organized by the Sri Lanka Finance Association and hosted by the Department of Accounting and Finance, Faculty of Management Studies, the Open University of Sri Lanka. We, the Department of Accounting and Finance, are truly honored to host EFMP 2025 at the Open University of Sri Lanka this year, a key event in the annual calendar of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. Over the years, the Sri Lanka Finance Association has built strong platforms that bring together diverse groups engaged in finance, those who research, those who practice, and those who shape the policies. Its conferences and collaborative initiatives have consistently developed a meaningful dialogue across the various areas of finance. This year, we continue that journey through this conference under the timely and impactful theme, Navigating Sustainable Growth and Innovation in Emerging Financial Markets. Before we begin the proceedings, may I kindly request everyone to rise for the national anthem. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will commence the 5th Annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy, EFMP 2025, and to officially welcome you all to this conference, I respectfully invite Professor Champika Lianagamage, Conference Chair of EFMP 2025, to deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and privilege as the conference chair on behalf of the Open University of Sri Lanka to warmly welcome all of you to the annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy 2025 of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. Let me begin by respectfully acknowledging the presence of our esteemed invitees. We are proudly, deeply honored to have with us Senior Professor PMC Tilakaratna, the Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka, our chief guest for this important event. We are equally privileged to welcome our keynote speaker today, Professor Janice Howe, Faculty of Business and Law, the Queensland University of Technology, Australia, whose insights we eagerly look forward to. I also extend a warm welcome to Professor Manjula K. Wanyarachige, President, Sri Lanka Finance Association, Dr. Emil Sudat Kumara, the Secretary of the Sri Lanka Finance Association, Mr. Sedi Senanayaka, the Dean, Faculty of Management Studies of the Open University of Sri Lanka, Deans of the other faculties, Director Research of the Open University of Sri Lanka, the Bursa, Registrar, distinguished representatives from CFA Sri Lanka and CA Sri Lanka, distinguished academics, industry experts, researchers, practitioners, session chairs, paper presenters who present physically today and who join online with us. Your presence enriches this gathering and we are sincerely grateful for your participation. This year's conference is especially meaningful to us as it is hosted and organized by the Open University of Sri Lanka. As a national university dedicated to open and distance learning, the Open University occupies a unique and vital place within Sri Lanka's higher education system, guided by a vision to attain excellence in life-changing education by providing equitable learning opportunities. We have continuous work to expand access to high-quality education and research across the country. We consider it a privilege to have been entrusted with the responsibility of hosting this year's conference on behalf of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. We accepted this invitation not merely as a task, but as an opportunity to contribute to the national and global discourse on financial market, and an opportunity to showcase the dedication, capability, and collaborative spirit of my university. I take this moment to gratefully acknowledge the commitment and tireless efforts of our wonderful faculty team, whose professionalism and enthusiasm have made this event possible. I also wish to express our heartfelt thanks for the guidance and inspiration provided by our visionary leader, Vice Chancellor, and both the former and the current deans of the faculty, whose leadership has strengthened our capacity to take on a conference on this scale. The theme of this year's conference, Navigating Sustainable Growth and Innovation in Emerging Financial Markets, is both timely and significant. Around the world, financial markets are undergoing rapid transformation driven by technology innovation, regulatory shifts, global uncertainties, and the urgent need for sustainable development. Following this inauguration, the conference will feature a series of carefully selected research papers presented across 3 parallel technical sessions, followed by an evening industry forum aligned with the conference theme. I warmly invite all participants to actively engage in these sessions and benefit from the insights they offer. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being with us today. I warmly welcome each one of you to the annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy 2025. and I wish you an intellectually stimulating and rewarding experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And Sri Lanka Finance Association has established a strong network among academics across several universities in Sri Lanka, creating a platform that brings together expertise, collaboration, and a shared purpose. This collective strength is reflected in many impactful initiations that Sri Lanka Finance Association has led and supported over the years. And now, to give us an overview of the Sri Lanka Finance Association, its mission, and its contribution to advance in the finance education, research and policy, I respectfully invite Professor Manjula K. Vanyarachige, President of the Sri Lanka Finance Association, to address the gathering.
Invited dignitaries, distinguished researchers, policymakers, industry leaders, students, and esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, joining with us today physically and online via Zoom. It is with great pleasure that I stand before today at the Emerging Financial Markets and Policy Conference 2025. This is one of the flagship events of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. We initiated since 2021. On behalf of the Sri Lanka Finance Association, I extend a warm welcome and my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for being part of this vibrant gathering of intellectual exchange. The Sri Lanka Finance Association was established in 2016. It was mainly guided by Professor Lalit Samarakon at the University of St. Thomas, USA, and Senior Professor Arendra Disabandar at Sri Lanka University. Since then, the Sri Lanka Finance Association has aspired to become a leading academic association in Sri Lanka. And it is not just a professional body, it is a body where not only the Sri Lankan academics, but also foreign academics and also practitioners can come together and exchange their expertise with each other. Our mission has always been to act as a bridge between knowledge and practice. A platform where academics, practitioners, policymakers, and students come together with one shared vision to advance the field of finance in Sri Lanka and across emerging economies, and to do so in ways that truly serve the national interest as well. At the Sri Lanka Finance Association, our objectives reflect this responsibility. We are committed to enhancing quality of finance education across the country, ensuring that the next generation of financial professionals is equipped with not just the theoretical knowledge, but with analytical and ethical foundations necessary for practical decision making. We aim to advocate sound financial policies and practices because we believe that strong financial systems are the bedrock of national development. We prioritize and promote high quality research, both basic and applied, that can inform policy, guide industry, and enrich academic discourse. This conference stands as a premier platform for such exchange of ideas, where scholars present their work, where practitioners bring their insights, and where policymakers engage directly with evidence and analysis. We are also deeply committed to broaden a broader mission, the dissemination of knowledge, whether through the Journal of Emerging Financial Markets and Policy published by the Sri Lanka Finance Association, whether through our seminar series or through our international student research conferences. We strive to make research accessible and meaningful and impactful. As an association, we hold a special responsibility towards wider public. In a world where financial complexity is increasing, the financial literacy is not a luxury, it is a necessity. This is why our financial education programs, ranging from workshops for teachers and students, training for entrepreneurs and SMEs, play such an essential role in our outreach. We believe that improving public understanding of financial issues is central to building a resilient and inclusive national economy. Another pillar of SLFA's mission is student engagement. I think we are the organization with the largest body of students in finance in Sri Lanka. We firmly believe that the future of finance in Sri Lanka depends on the passion and curiosity of young scholars. Through our student chapters, conferences, and mentoring programs, we aim to nurture that passion and give young people the platform they deserve. We also value international collaboration. Finance is global. Therefore, SLFA continuously seeks to build strong, friendly relationships with like-minded associations around the world as well as within Sri Lanka. We want Sri Lankan research to find a place on the global stage, and we want global insights to enrich Sri Lankan policy and practice. Today's conference is a reflection of all these efforts and of your contributions. The research presented here, the conversations that take place, and connections formed during this conference will shape the discourse of finance for years to come. Whether we examine the rise of financial technologies, the role of governance, or the dynamics of emerging capital markets, the discussions we have at this conference will contribute to better policies, stronger institutions, and more inclusive financial systems. As we look to the future, the SLFA remains steadfast in its commitment to supporting the development of Sri Lanka's financial ecosystem. But we cannot do it alone. We rely on your partnership, your ideas, your expertise, and your dedication. Together we can build a financial landscape that is more innovative, more resilient, and more inclusive. Before I conclude, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Senior Professor PMC Tilakaratna, the Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka. We are truly honored that you have enabled us to host this year's conference at the Open University of Sri Lanka, a place that represents the very spirit of open knowledge, inclusion, and academic excellence. Your gracious presence here today as a chief guest adds immense prestige to this inauguration. On behalf of the Sri Lanka Finance Association, I offer our sincere appreciation for your unwavering support and for welcoming us so warmly to the Open University of Sri Lanka. I would also like to take a moment to express our sincere appreciation to our keynote speaker, Professor Janice Howe from QUT Australia, whose presence today greatly enriches this event. We are deeply honored to have you with us. Your work has shaped contemporary thinking in finance and policy, and we look forward with great inspiration to the insights that you will share shortly. Thank you for accepting our invitation, for contributing so generously to the intellectual strength of Emerging Financial Markets and Policy Conference 2025. Let me also express my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee, mainly led by Professor Champika Lienagamage and Professor Aruna Shanta, and also I know that the Dean and also other heads of departments and academics of the faculty has immensely contributed to organize this event. On behalf of Sri Lanka Finance Association, I am grateful to all of them. Also, the reviewers, the panelists, the authors, and every participant who contributed to this conference, I appreciate their contributions and thank on behalf of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. Your hard work and enthusiasm are what brings this conference to life year after year. I would also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our generous sponsors, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, CFA Society of Sri Lanka, LOLC Finance, and also the Open University, and other supporting partners who always partner with us in organizing similar events. Your commitment and support have been essential in making EFMP 2025 a reality. Conferences of this scale require not only intellectual contribution but also strong institutional and financial backing. And we are deeply grateful for your confidence in our mission. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all an inspiring and engaging, productive conference in the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor. And your leadership has been one of the key pillars behind the success of many initiatives of the Sri Lanka Finance Association. And as we host this conference today, we are deeply grateful for the unwavering support and guidance we receive from our leadership at the Open University. The Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka is a visionary leader driving several success stories of the university, including our ability to host this prestigious event this year. We are especially proud that he himself comes from an accounting and finance background, which makes his presence even more meaningful today. It is now my privilege to invite our chief guest, Senior Professor PMC Tilakaratna, Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Sri Lanka.
Thank you for the introduction. Very good morning to all of you. So, Dean Faculty of Management Studies, Mr. Dhanmapriya Senanayaka, and Dean Faculty of Health Sciences, and Dean Faculty of Education, former Dean, our own professor. Then the Sri Lanka Finance Association President, Professor Manjula Vanniarachigi, Professor at the University of Ruhuna, and of course, conference co-chair, Professor Champika Lienagamage, CEO CFA Sri Lanka, Mr. Arun Alvis, long-standing one of my friends, and representative from the CFA, and representative from the CS Sri Lanka, and LLC Finance, and all our professors, heads of the departments, other academics, birds of the university, and director research, of course, of the Open University Sri Lanka, and those who are connecting with us virtually, and keynote speaker also, I found here Professor Janice Howe, Faculty of Business and Law, the Queensland University of Technology, Australia, and ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's my distinct pleasure to speak few words in this inauguration ceremony. Finance, again, emerging financial markets concept stems in 1995. The World Bank and the sister organization to the World Bank, IFC, International Finance Corporation, coined this term. Why? With a reason. That reason is, when you know that US stock markets collapsed, then the US investors and investing firms, advisory firms, thought of how to diversify the investments to maximize the shareholders' wealth. Then International Finance Corporation came up with the suggestion, of course, other than that US stock market, then we look for emerging stock markets. Then they have created a database that is known as Emerging Stock Markets Database. It included 145 stock markets all over the world. Then, so with this, what had happened, Emerging Stock Market Database, all that US investors, of course, that then cross-border investments they have, of course, looked for to maximize their shareholders' wealth. This is, that the emergence of this concept and thereafter with the financial literacy and financial deepening in the countries, of course, this concept in various ways propagated all over the world. I'm very happy, that's why I said that it's my distinct pleasure. Of course, Sri Lanka Finance Association, of course, today and decided to host this conference at the Open University of Sri Lanka, where how that through the education, this concept of financial literacy and a research into this area, how that we should that developed. That is the main part. Because today the finance landscape is totally changed with blockchain, AI technology, and what is called data mining and data analytics, everything, and so all now change, not like in the past. In the past, of course, to project whatever the finance landscape changes for the future, so it's only the regressed all the that variables and that given the conclusion. Now it is that totally change. So therefore that my speech I just jotted down yesterday also, that I couldn't recollect today because with my busy schedule that I couldn't recollect all, because up to 1:30 a.m. that I had the meeting with one of the Australian counterparts. That is also that about an investment. That investment is that mega solar power project. One of the Sri Lankans, of course, one of my students, now is a big businessman in Australia and a permanent resident in Australia. So I did the financial analysis for him. Now 2 billion US dollar investment to Sri Lanka. So already cabinet approved. Yesterday night only I received the papers. So therefore, to everyone, financial literacy is needed. So therefore, my focus is that I jotted down some of the things. How this, transformation had happened. Transformation of emerging financial markets. Where across the world, emerging markets are, we are very much aware, reshaping the contours of global finance. So that nations, once classified as developing economies, are the drivers of innovation, growth, and investment opportunities. Their financial markets are expanding in scale, sophistication, as I said, and influence. So therefore, several forces propel for this. What are the forces? First thing is that demographic dynamism. Say Sri Lankan, now in Australia. Again, giving back something to Sri Lanka with that $2 billion investment to a 1,500 megawatt hour project for the solar generation at Punari. This is what that demographic dynamism. It means that population is very much skilled now, right? Thinking in different manner. Second, technological, it is called leapfrogging. Meaning is that from mobile banking to digital payments and AI-driven finance, as I said. Third, policy reforms that this conference, of course, addresses, where greater transparency and stronger regulatory frameworks and a commitment to economic stability. Say, for example, I think that you are very much aware. I worked for the Sri Lanka, what is called Securities and Exchange Commission, as a founding director of the Financial Services Academy. I tried my best. I think our CEO, Mr. Arun always is knowing. So we have tried our best to, of course, that to bring down derivative products to Sri Lanka's Colombo Stock Exchange, and then broker licensing, a lot of things that we have done. I mean, from the policy reform side, I do not understand yet how far it has reached to my, that imagination, my vision. Then I touch upon, because this is a research conference, the policy imperatives for emerging economics. We are emerging economy. Of course, resilience is there, because if the financial literacy, of course, was there with our politicians, this country, we never, declare as a bankrupt country, right? So therefore, in today's interconnected world, policy frameworks must be adaptive, of course, evidence-based and responsive to new financial realities. So they are that for the new financial realities, what we need, I am not going to elaborate on this because everyone is very much aware about our economic situation, how the world is moving, and therefore strengthening macroeconomic stability. That is very much important. Of course, this present government, so now on the right track. So I mean financial policy and again monetary policy, and therefore the emerging markets must fortify the credibility of their monetary and fiscal policies. Credibility is very much important. It must be stable, and again it should be geared towards the economic development always. Then price stability is much more important. Again, prudent debt management, but still that we are waiting up to 2027 onwards, 2028 onwards, how that our debt repayment plan will happen. And transparent communication as a country we need, and fundamental to building investor confidence and reducing vulnerability to external shocks, because we cannot escape from the external shocks. Then the CFA Sri Lanka and Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and CA Sri Lanka and other finance ministry as well. So the second most important part is enhancing financial sector regulation. This is very much important. So therefore, innovation, that in brief I am telling this one, and particularly in what is called fintech, has transformed how finance operates. Say for example, if you go to China, even that roadside seller, just that QR code. In India too, that QR code now. So there is no that currency that is transacting for the whatever the transactions. And then while it enhances convenience and inclusion, it also poses new risks. Our regulatory institution must adopt risk-based, technology-enabled supervision to safeguard stability while encouraging responsible growth. Because when that fintech products are there, even some countries like, not countries, Nigerians, Algerians are coming and infiltrating our accounts, and then that taking so all that funds from our accounts. So every day it's reporting to the cybercrime division in Sri Lanka too. Then that third most important factor is deepening capital markets. Capital markets for countries like ours, robust capital markets are critical to channel long-term financing into key sectors as SMEs. Still that in our country, not listed SMEs in our whatever the board, right? So therefore that it is very much important. And then that again sector like I said, renewable energy to be promoted, and that digital industries, because we are, let's say for example, I do remember that when my school time, I used to get the permission, because since my mother and father both worked to the government, I had to pay utility bills. No water is from the well, no electricity bill. Then that I had to go to the bank. So I always ask permission from the school principal to go to the bank to settle. Now we never go to the bank to settle our utility bills. So that is what I said. It is not that digital, not only these digital products, digital industries must be developed. So our university is a digital university now, open and distance learning. Strengthening equity, bond and venture capital markets will only support economic expansion but drive entrepreneurship and job creation. All together will create, of course, entrepreneurship and job creation. Otherwise, that the country will never develop. And next one is embracing digital finance, as I said. then digital finance is no longer peripheral tool now, because it is the backbone of modern economic systems. Mobile money, blockchain applications, and AI-enabled credit assessment can accelerate financial inclusion. However, success requires what? Strong data protection laws must be there in the country. Then interoperable payment systems should be there. And third, cybersecurity readiness. Are we ready? Cybersecurity levels. Then clear policy direction on digital assets, not the cryptocurrency. So then Sri Lanka has the potential to be a regional leader in digital finance, provided we align innovation with robust governance. So then I just touched upon the role of the Open University of Sri Lanka in this evolving landscape. That is also important to speak, because it's my own university. The national leader in open and distance learning, the Open University of Sri Lanka occupies a unique position in the future of financial sector development. I think that taken leadership by the Faculty of Management Studies and again the Department of Accounting Finance, together of course with the Sri Lanka Finance Association, of course collaborating with the CFA Sri Lanka, CS Sri Lanka, and some other finance companies. Therefore, our mandate extends beyond teaching. It includes research and organizing conferences like in this nature, policy engagement, and capacity building. We need capacity building. What I always believe, our period is now over. It should be taken and that propagated and to continue, should be continued by young that academic leaders and young practitioners. So therefore, capacity building is important. I think in this nature, conferences will do that role. And OSL can contribute, therefore, meaningfully the following things. Developing industry-relevant programs. That is very much important. Not, that always, that traditional or the convey. Let's say, for example, yesterday we had here at the Open in Sri Lanka what is called Artificial Intelligence Conference. Right? Then that I heard University of Maratua introduced BSc degree program on AI. Now this is the trend. So then that what my perspective is that, sorry, AI degree, let's say accounting and finance degree through the AI platform. Right? And it means that all artificial intelligence, whatever the methods or the techniques should be embedded into the each and every degree program. Sorry. Then second, training the next generation of financial professionals who understand both theory and practice is important. Then conducting interdisciplinary research to inform national policy and guide institutional reforms, very much important. We always think that, okay, our act is there, circulars are there, government policies are there, so that we need to restrict it for everything. So that no, it's not like this. We need to, of course, we need to get the approvals and everything. So, but that is, we need that part as well. Then collaborating with regulators, industry, and global partners. Now you did this to strengthen Sri Lanka's financial ecosystem. In the era where knowledge becomes obsolete quickly, universities must serve as lifelong learning hubs, nurturing critical thinkers, innovators, and responsible leaders. I don't think that, just 2 minutes. Then last part, looking ahead, vision for Sri Lanka. I'm always, thinking about the future. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, emerging financial markets offer a path to greater prosperity, resilience, and global integration. But to seize this opportunity, we need policies that are forward-looking, as I said, then inclusive, technology-driven, and grounded in strong institutions and human capital. Grounded in strong institutions and human capital. Therefore, Sri Lanka stands at a defining moment with wise policy choices and the collective commitment of government, academia, industry and society, we can shape a financial system that supports sustainable development and empowers every citizen of this country. I did once, when I was at the Securities and Exchange Commission, President, said that, valuable lands belongs to the Sri Lanka Railway here in Sri Lanka. I said, sir, yes. He said, okay, then what's the proposal? Then I said, okay, we can, that what is called, according to our Companies Act, people's companies. I said that we'll do the concept of people's companies. Then, that every citizen will buy a share by paying 10 rupee. So then will be owned these lands. Then, finance will be, that let's say raised, and then, that relevant funds will be raised, and then the shareholder is our own citizen. And then I went to the Arisan Habudu as well, that, kept the name as well. I don't not want to say that name here because it's not existing now. So then, that finally, and third presentation, that I did at the President Office, and said that no, so it should not to our own Sri Lankans, we should sell to the foreigners. You understand? Then I said that no, I cannot do that proposal. Therefore, that I just returned from the President Office. This is what the Sri Lanka became bankrupt. You understand, right? Always thinking in a different manner. That is my own experience anyway. So that's why I said we need to empower every citizen. I propose the mechanism how to empower every citizen. Because why? What is the end of finance is that, like when I studied in a foreign country, the domestic, worker, right, cleaner, asked that what is the car that you are using here in Sri Lanka. At that time I had a diesel car imported on permit as well. Then that she showed me, okay, look at my one. At that time it is, it's a luxury car, not now. X-Trail, Nissan X-Trail, brand new X-Trail, you see. So this is what is that? That is, wealth, right? We are not rich because our people are not, that what is called having financial literacy. So therefore, as that David Tudaro said, we are, again, always under the vicious circle of poverty. And all educated, of course, our young minds are again migrating to the developed countries. They are, the shouldering to develop their countries to the, that, another pinnacle, right? Australia, UK, New Zealand, and other developed countries. Our country is, that becoming poor and poor. But I hope that it will not happen. Through the acts of, this kind of nature and financial literacy, and then again research and innovation and, policies. So in conclusion, I think that I discussed a lot. In conclusion, what I wanted to say, as we look forward to the future, let us embrace change with confidence. Let us craft policies that safeguard stability while enabling innovation. And let us ensure that our financial markets, emerging, dynamic and full potential, serves as engines of inclusive growth. The Open Sri Lanka remains committed to advancing knowledge, inspiring minds and supporting the nation's journey towards a more resilient and prosperous financial future. So once again, I really commend the decision of the Sri Lanka Finance Association to host the conference at the Open Sri Lanka, and President of SLFA, Professor Mandra Banyarchigi, and EXCO, and again our all sponsors. I really like to see here CFO, the Sri Lanka Finance Chartered Financial Analyst Sri Lanka representatives here. It is good because always I believe I have been trying in the university structure always to connect with the industry. Without this, I don't think that we will never have, whatever the economic growth or the economic resilience. So I wish this, that conference to be very productive and to again come out with policy initiatives as a result of this conference. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, dear sir, for your valuable thoughts, timely insights, and also for the continuous encouragement. And more importantly, thank you for your continuous commitment and contribution to the academia. It is now time for the keynote address of EFMP 2025, and to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, I am pleased to invite Professor Arunashanta, Conference Coordinator of EFMP 2025, to the stage.
It is my privilege to introduce the keynote speaker of 5th International Conference on Emerging Financial Market and Policy 2025, Professor Janice Ho. Professor Janice Ho served at the School of Economics and Finance, Faculty of Business and Law of Queensland University of Australia. Her research interests are primarily in corporate finance, with particular focus on corporate governance, capital raising, financial analyst focus, payout policies, and political economy of finance. Her work is published in leading international journals, including Journal of Business, Journal of Corporate Finance, Journal of Accounting, Auditing and Finance, Journal of Business Ethics. She is a strong advocate for regional research, with contribution to Pacific Basin Finance Journal, Accounting and Finance, Australian Journal of Management. Her research has been recognized through numerous international awards. Professor Janice has held senior academic positions across Australia and New Zealand, including Professor, Head of Finance at University of Auckland, and academic roles at Curtin University and University of Western Australia. She was the founding director of Area of Research Excellence in Asia Pacific Capital Market at Curtin Business School and served as the Director of Research Training in Faculty of Business and Law, Queensland University of Technology. So with this brief introduction, I warmly invite Professor Janice Ho to deliver the keynote speech. Over to you, Professor.
Shanta. And good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure to be with you at the 5th Annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy. Now I'm just going to share my screen with you. And I can see that there are a couple of messages on my chat. Okay, I'm all good. Okay. All right. So my keynote today is called Institutions as Scaffolding, Building Credible Finance in Emerging Markets. And here is the core idea. Finance doesn't float freely. It rests on scaffolding, and by that, I mean the rules, norms, and institutions that either hold it up or let it collapse. And my argument is this: whether finance becomes substance or slips into mere symbolism, it depends on the strength of that scaffolding. And today, I'll walk you through 4 pillars from my own research across emerging markets, places where scaffolding can make or break credibility. And I suppose the essence of my presentation today is very much aligned with the views that Professor Thila Karatna sort of shared with us earlier about emerging markets. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the next slide, which is basically, setting the stage for my presentation today. Now, 85% of the world's population lives in emerging markets, and they contribute about 60% of global growth. So that means the future of finance isn't being written in New York, London, or Sydney alone. It is being shaped right now in Colombo, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, and beyond. But here is the catch. Demographics alone, they do not guarantee outcomes. Then the real question is, do these countries have scaffolding that is strong enough to turn growth into credibility, to turn signals into substance? And across emerging markets, we all see familiar structural pressures. Concentrated ownership, where control kind of stays in a few hands. Political influence, where connections can shape real firm outcomes. And then we also have weak enforcement, where the rules kind of exist, but they don't always bite. So these are the real forces that test the institutional scaffolding of finance. In today's keynote address, I'll focus on ASEAN examples, but the principles of scaffolding apply everywhere, wherever institutions shape whether financial signals are trusted or dismissed. So our first pillar is politics. Patronage, allocation, redistribution. In emerging markets, political connections can bend financial signals. And the key question is this: does the scaffolding correct those distortions or reinforce them? Because if institutions cannot channel politics into transparency, finance ends up balancing not on fundamentals, but on relationships. So let's start by looking at Malaysia. Political patronage is part of the scaffolding, and it cuts both ways. And here, the scaffolding refers to the ownership-based monitoring environment. When government-controlled institutional investors hold significant stakes, or what we call social patronage, financial analysts actually sharpen their forecasts. So those investors, they demand greater disclosure. But when government-linked corporations dominate share ownership, or what we call economic patronage, analyst forecasts lose precision. So these firms are harder to read because the ownership structure kind of shields them from scrutiny. And interestingly, we find that political ties alone make little difference. So the lesson is clear. It is not the connection itself, it is the governance scaffolding around that connection. Strong scaffolding pushes information into the market. Weak scaffolding lets incentives blur it. Now, scaffolding also shows up in how markets are designed, and nowhere is that clearer than in Malaysia's IPO market And this is what we're going to look at next. So in Malaysia, IPOs are not only about price discovery, they are also instruments of wealth redistribution. Retail Bumiputra investors, so these are Malays and indigenous groups of the country, they receive smaller allocations in the most underpriced IPOs. But those small slices, they are still profitable, and retail investors often flip them quickly for profits. So basically, this channels part of the IPO underpricing, which, as we know, is a cost that is borne by the issuing owners, into the hands of Bumiputra investors. So that distribution is exactly what the policy intended. And then we have institutional Bumiputra investors. So these are pension funds and state-linked corporations. They receive the large reserved quotas. But because the quotas must be fully taken up, then these institutions, they end up absorbing the less demanded IPOs. So effectively, that means they hold weaker issues and earn lower returns. So the IPO market kind of shows us, right, scaffolding in action, a system that decides who gets what and on what terms. Now, our second pillar is both diversity or gender diversity and ESG. Now, we often hear the simple story, diversity improves governance, quote unquote. But we know that the evidence is much more nuanced. On financial performance, we see that the results are highly mixed. Some studies find gains, others don't. But when we shift the lens to ESG outcomes, trust, long-term value, sustainability, the story becomes clearer. Diversity only makes a real difference when the scaffolding is strong. So let me show you what this looks like in ASEAN. In countries with stronger governance scaffolding, Singapore, Malaysia, and perhaps the Philippines, board diversity significantly improves ESG scores. The signal is credible. But in weaker settings, like Indonesia, those same appointments, well, they look the same on paper, and yet the signal carries far less weight. And this chart that you see in front of you makes the point clear. Diversity drives ESG only when governance scaffolding holds it up. And again, the lesson? Well, without scaffolding, diversity risks being a symbol. But with scaffolding, it becomes substance. And this finding kind of carries a warning, if you like, especially for investors. The same signal, a diverse board, can mean very different things depending on scaffolding. In Singapore, it signals stronger ESG. In Indonesia, it often signals little more than compliance. So don't just read the signal. You need to ask, what scaffolding holds it up? And that is how symbols turn into substance. Now let's turn to our third pillar, networks. Connections can shape how information kind of flows through organizations. And they condition how leadership and board diversity translate into real reporting outcomes. But connections, they don't operate in a vacuum. So their effects depend on the institutional scaffolding around them, the scrutiny, the incentives, and the constraints that keep information honest. And once again, scaffolding kind of decides which way the weight falls. Now in Malaysia, our results kind of show female CFOs, they do constrain earnings manipulation or earnings management, but only when the scaffolding supports them. In politically connected firms, external scrutiny is high. Regulators, analysts, and the public, they keep a close watch. So that scaffolding kind of amplifies ethical leadership. And we find female CFOs, they're able to cut discretionary accruals by about half. But in family firms, where oversight tends to be kind of internal and external monitors tend to be somewhat weak, now that same leadership makes no measurable difference. So the scaffolding, it is simply just not there. All right? So leadership sets the tone, but it needs institutional scaffolding to carry the weight of integrity. Now let's have a look at director networks and how different intra-ethnic structures interact with the same institutions. On the left of your screen is the Bumiputra political network. It is dense, it is inward, and it is tied to long-standing institutional links. And that protection kind of weakens scrutiny. And as a result, we see lower earnings quality. On the right is the Chinese business group network, quasi-based, commercial, and built on reciprocity. And here too, we find lower earnings quality. Well, not because of politics, but because of reciprocal obligations that encourage coordinated reporting. So what we have here is basically same institutions, two very different network logics. Political ties insulate on one hand, quasi ties reciprocate on the other hand, but both can channel opacity. So the point here is not about ethnicity. It is about how networks use the scaffolding of institutions to support transparency or to shield insiders. Now, this is our final pillar, the fourth pillar, Islamic finance, a fascinating laboratory of design. And here, scaffolding isn't just about regulation. It is built directly into contracts through Sharia principles, asset backing, risk sharing, and ethical screens. And design kind of cuts both ways. It can build resilience, and it can also create new stress points. And that is because design does not eliminate risk. It simply kind of reallocates it, changing who bears the risk and in what form. So on the left, we have Islamic equity funds. Because they screen out highly leveraged and speculative companies, these funds tend to hold up better in periods of market stress. In other words, the screening provides a cushion. And then we have Islamic banks. They take on less credit and liquidity risk compared to conventional banks, but many of their contracts behave like fixed rate financing. So this means they are more exposed to interest rate risk. And Sukuk, on the right of your screen, they tell a similar story. Collateral and special purpose vehicles discipline managers, and simpler asset-backed structures. They cope better with information risk compared to complex synthetic kind of structures. So the lesson is clear. Design doesn't remove risk. It simply moves it, trading one type of risk for another. So scaffolding can then kind of stay in the frame if you like, but every design choice creates new pressure points. And then we have certification. I call it scaffolding for trust. The evidence is quite striking, as you can see in this chart. Certified Sukuk, they trade at around 2.3% spreads. Uncertified Sukuk, on the other hand, are closer to 3.1%. So that is a clear penalty for weaker scaffolding. Reputable
Recording in progress.
information risks. In short, it kind of anchors credibility in Islamic finance. So let's pull all the threads together. Across all, kind of pillars, one theme repeats. Institutions decide whether signals carry weight or remain symbolic. When scaffolding is weak, we see distortions. Patronage blurs information. Diversity becomes symbolic. Networks shield insights. And design hides risk instead of sharing it. But when scaffolding is strong, we see credibility. Monitoring bites. Diversity strengthens real outcomes. Networks, they have now fewer opportunities to distort. And design builds resilience. So the lesson is simple but profound. Progress isn't just about passing reforms. It is about building institutions that turn signals into substance. And that challenge is not only for Asia Pacific, it is for every market that is still under construction. So where do we go from here? Well, for policy, it means strengthening scaffolding and tailoring reforms to the governance you actually have. For practice, companies must embed substance, not symbols. Investors, they need to read signals in context, always asking what scaffolding supports this claim. And for research, we need to look beyond ASEAN to the scaffolding around emerging areas like AI, fintech, and green finance. So the future of finance will not hinge on the signals we send, but on the scaffolding we are willing to build. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Now, if there is one message I hope you take away, it is this: finance is never free-floating. It stands or it collapses on the scaffolding we build around it. And the future depends on the institutions we choose to strengthen. And that is the work ahead of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Janice Howe, for your insightful speech, and your perspectives have added a great value to today's event and encouraging us to think deeply and reflect on important aspects of emerging financial markets. And your contribution has not only enriched our current discussion, but also inspired for several productive and meaningful future conversations. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now launch the EFMP 2025 conference proceedings. And to formally launch the proceedings, I kindly invite our chief guest, Senior Professor PMC Tilakaratna, the President of Sri Lanka Finance Association, Professor Manjula K. Vanyarachige, and our conference chair of EFMP 2025, Professor Champika Lianagamage, to the stage. Thank you so much. And this event has been made possible with the generous support of our sponsors and partners, whose contributions have been invaluable in ensuring success of this event. We sincerely appreciate their support, and to acknowledge their efforts, we will now present a video highlighting our sponsors.
Is here. The future of the chartered accountant begins now. A curriculum designed to build trust, drive strategy and stories, inspire transformation. Presenting the CA Sri Lanka Curriculum 2025 to 2030.
As an aspiring or practicing investment professional, you'll need the knowledge and skills to thrive in a highly competitive industry. Look no further than the CFA program. The Chartered Financial Analyst program is the gold standard in investment management education. It's a rigorous self-study program that covers everything from ethics and quantitative analysis to portfolio management and wealth planning. Earning the CFA charter opens doors to a world of opportunities. It validates your knowledge, skills, and ethical standards, making you highly sought after by top financial institutions. The CFA program is designed to equip you with the kind of expertise and real-world skills and investment analysis that will help you advance your career. Whether you're a practicing investment professional, a student, switching careers, or just looking to start a career in this field, the CFA program offers a way to move forward and achieve your financial goals. CFA charter holders occupy a range of investment decision-making roles, typically as a research analyst or portfolio manager. CFA charter holders go on to enjoy lifelong careers in asset and wealth management, investment banking, commercial banking, and consulting, alongside a diverse range of career paths in and outside the industry. CFA charter holders command higher salaries and enjoy better compensation packages. As a globally recognized credential in the investment management profession, earning the CFA charter demonstrates to employers that you have the knowledge and the commitment to thrive in today's complex and evolving investment industry. The CFA designation is a mark of distinction, and investment firms know it represents a high standard. We understand that pursuing the CFA program is a challenging journey, but remember, you're not alone. CFA Institute offers comprehensive study materials, practice exams, and a support community. Are you ready to take your career to new heights? Enroll in the CFA program today and start building your foundation for a successful future in finance.
The Open University of Sri Lanka has been the site of fecund growth for many a Sri Lankan who seeks a second chance in lifelong learning. Through our revolutionary mode of teaching, the open and distance learning mode, we have nurtured the lives of students who seek academic engagements in the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, engineering technology, management, health sciences, and education. Fertile soil and nutrients create the conditions which allow a seed to face the world.
And as we conclude the opening ceremony, it is important that we express our gratitude to all our guests, speakers, participants, and all other supportive hands for their support and for their presence. So to deliver the vote of thanks, I now invite Mr. Chanaka Veerasekara, Conference Secretary of EFMP 2025.
Thank you, Taranga. Okay, so since we have come to the end of this 5th annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy, so it takes great privilege and pleasure to address you all on behalf of the organizing committee of this conference. So my job is to remind everybody who has behind this particular event, to thank everybody who have contributed towards this event. So first and foremost, my deepest gratitude goes to the Vice Chancellor of the Open University Sri Lanka. Of course, he is the chief guest of the today's event, Professor P.M.C. Tilakaratna, for gracing this occasion. Thank you very much, sir. You always encourage us to go beyond the university's wall and have a collaboration with others in the country as well as national and international. So you are one of the reasons that we took this effort under the Department of Accounting and Finance and Faculty of Management Studies, because we know that your support is there. For thank you very much for that, sir. And our sincere appreciation goes to our keynote speaker from KUT University, Professor Janice Howe, for her insightful keynote address. So I must confess that is one of the original address that we have listened so long time. And thank you very much for that, for your thoughtful ideas about emerging markets, emerging financial markets, and as well as the perspective that you have discussed with us. I'm sure that our viewers have something to take home with this address. So thank you very much for that, Professor. And next, I would like to thank the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies, Mr. S.A.D. Senanayak, for your leadership and guidance towards this particular endeavor, and of course, Head of the Department of the Accounting and Finance, Dr. Asanka Senivaratna, for the leadership and the guidance that you have provided for this conference, which make this conference a reality. So thank you very much for that. And I should also acknowledge the support given by the Registrar of the Open University, Ms. Vindya Jayasena, as well as the Bursar of the University, Dr. Aruna Vikramasinghe, for the seamless administrative coordination as well as the financial support from their end. So thank you very much. So without your support, this would not be a very successful event. And the special word of gratitude goes to this organizing committee of this event, comprising with countless academics from all national universities across the Sri Lanka, so contributing, collaborating together, taking time out, working together, and dedication towards this particular conference. So that makes us one very good family all around the university. So that makes the connection around the university. So thank you very much for contribution that given to us from those individuals from across all the universities in Sri Lanka. And I fail my duty if I fail to mention this. Our dedicated staff, non-academic as well as academic staff from the Department of Accounting and Finance, so they work tirelessly behind the scenes. Most of them are not here with us because they are working behind the scenes, so I need to mention them. So thank you very much. Without you all, this event would not have been successful. So thank you very much for that. And another thing that I want to mention now, we all see that there is a lot of things going on. So there is a video, photography, as well as live streaming of the event and studio management and all those things. And there was a lot of content creation behind this event. So everything was possible because of the SETME. So I would like to thank SETME director as well as the IT director and the team for supporting us to run this particular hybrid conference at the standard that we are expecting. So thank you very much for that. Your support is greatly appreciated. And another important party for this particular conference, of course, paper reviewers, session chairs, and paper discussions, because their expertise, constructive feedbacks, and contribution has greatly helped us to maintain the scholarly quality of this event. So thank you very much for that as well. And of course, the paper presenters, basically the very heart of the conference. So thank you very much for joining hand with us to share your knowledge, new ideas with us. So that is actually why we of course have this conference, because of you. So thank you very much for joining hand with us for this conference. And of course, our sponsors. So I would like to place on record on our deepest thank and gratitude to our sponsors, CS Sri Lanka, CFA, Society of Sri Lanka, as well as LOLC Finance, so for your generous support. So your partnership has significantly contributes towards to this particular international conference. So thank you very much for making that enable for us. And once again, special thanks goes to the Open University of Sri Lanka for providing this infrastructure facilities to host this particular event and providing with financial support. And thank you very much for that. Even I am also part of it. As the part of the organizing committee, I would want to mention that as well. So finally, my warmest thank goes to all the participants who have presented online as well as presented in person here, because your active engagement as well as your presence here made this particular event more vibrant, more impactful, and meaningful. So thank you every one of you who have presented here to taking your time out, being with us, joining with us in this particular event. So thank you very much for that as well. So if should I have unintentionally failed to mention somebody, so please accept my sincere gratitude and my heartfelt thank for that, for them, as well as if anybody who has contributed which I could not mention here. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so since we have come to end of this particular wonderful event, so I believe that you will all have a wonderful, fulfilling day ahead with the conference, and thank you very much again, once again, for everybody to be being with us and supporting for this event. So hoping that we will meet once again in the next upcoming conference in the next year in 2026. And thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, before we join the next sessions of this conference, I have a few important announcements regarding the rest of today's program. The technical sessions will begin at 11 a.m. and continue until 1 p.m. And you may join us via Zoom, and the links have been already shared with you. And the announcement of best paper votes will take place during the closing ceremony this evening. So we encourage everyone to join and witness the recognition of outstanding research contributions too. And more importantly, a key highlight of EFMP 2025 is the Industry Forum, which will be conducted from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. at this place and also will broadcast online. So 3 distinguished experts will join us to discuss under the theme of driving sustainable finance through innovation, financial intermediation, and financial market solutions. So this will be an excellent learning opportunity, especially for our academics and students, and we kindly invite you all to attend the Industry Forum as well. And with that, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony of 5th Annual International Conference on Emerging Financial Markets and Policy, EFMP 2025. And thank you once again for being a part of this opening ceremony. And we look forward seeing you at the technical sessions and also especially at the Industry Forum, which will commence at 2 p.m. Thank you.